يا شباب الصباح، صباح الخير. أرحب بكم من بيت روسي في بيروت. اسمي دكتور فاديم زايتشك، فأنا رئيس بيت روسي في بيروت. نحن نتابع مشروعنا ضمن عام علوم وتكنولوجيا في روسيا. فاليوم نحن نسمع محاضرة جديدة وممتعة إن شاء الله. هذه المحاضرة تساعدكم في اختيار اختصاص جامعي مستقبلي. فقبل كل شيء بدي أشير أن الحكومة الروسية بدأت عملية اختيار تنافسي لتقديم منح دراسية روسية لطلاب أجنبي. فكل طلاب لبنانيين يستطيعوا يقدموا طلب على طريق ويب سايت educationinrussia.com، فتستطيعوا أن تشاركوا في اختيار تنافسي وتحصلوا على منحة دراسية حتى تستطيعوا بعدين تدرسوا في أحسن الجامعات الروسية بمجان. فهذا المهم جدا. عندكم فقط شهر ونص لبداية شهر 11 تغنون تاني لتعملوا تسجيل على هذا الموقع الإلكترونية educationrussia.com. إذا توجد عندكم أسئلة أو صعوبات تستطيعوا تقرأ كل المعلومات على صفحة تبعتنا على فيسبوك Studying Russia for Lebanese، أو تتصل بنا برقم تليفون مكتوب على هذه الصفحة. فلا تنسوا عشان معكم فقط شهر ونص لتسجيل لهذا الموقع الإلكتروني. طبعا ضمن النشاطات بيت روسي في بيروت نحن كل أسبوعين نزور جامعة رائدة روسية جديدة ونتحدث مع طلاب العرب الذين يدرسون فيها. مرة ماضية نحن زرنا معكم ضمن هذا المشروع جامعة موسكو الحكومية للهندسة مدنية. فهذه الجامعة تعتبر من أكبر الجامعات في روسيا أو أشهر الجامعات في روسيا في هندسة مدنية. فنحن اتفقنا مع هذه الجامعة عشان نعمل محاضرة اليوم، فإن شاء الله تستفيدوا من هذه المحاضرة. فهي محاضرة حاملة الدكتوراة تقنية وأستاذة مساعدة في قسم تصميم المدني والمنشآت في جامعة موسكو الحكومية للهندسة المدنية سيسويفا يلينا فلاديميروفنا، تحت العنوان توافق المحيط الحيوي والبناء الأخضر، طريق تنمية متبادلة للبشرية والطبيعة، حيث ستتحدث عن التأثير تشييد المباني وهيكلة على حالة البيئية لمدن وإمكانية الحاد على هذا التأثير. فهذا الموضوع كتير مهم. بناء الأخضر هذا المستقبل للهندسة مدنية. فتعرفوا أنتم اليوم ونحن نرد على بعض الأسئلة. ما معنى محيط الحيوي؟ فلماذا من الضروري إنشاء مدن تنمي الإنسان؟ فما معنى بيئة الأخضر وماذا يتضمن؟ وكمان ما هو بحث الذي يتم إجراؤه في جامعة موسكو الحكومية للهندسة المدنية في مختبرات الحالية، فما هي النتائج التي تم الحصول عليها؟ يعني ممكن بعد المحاضرة اليوم أنتم سوف تختاروا جامعة موسكو الحكومية للهندسة المدنية وتختاروا هذا الاختصاص. وهذا الاختصاص كتير صارت مطلوب في كل العالم. فلا أحب أن أحضر كثير من وقتكم، فبدي أرحب متحدثة اليوم. Good morning, Mrs. Yelina Vladimirovna. I welcome you from Beirut. Thank you for your acceptance to read a lecture for our students about this subject. Perhaps some of them are currently deciding on their future profession or university, and today's lecture will help them to make their choice. Thank you very much, and please, you can start your lecture. Thank you.
Good morning, Vadim Igorovich. Good morning, colleagues. First of all, I want to express my gratitude for the invitation to the Russian House in Beirut. I hope that the problems that are being raised today will find a response and we will be able to solve them together, of course, together. As it was said, I work at the Department of Design of Buildings and Structures in Moscow State University of Civil Engineering as an associate professor. For the past years, I have been engaged in a certain range of tasks related to the topic of the principles of transforming a city into biosphere compatible and developing person. This extensive topic includes, among other things, the tasks of green construction, the study of the work of green roofs and facades. And now, green construction is an approach to the development of building concepts when the process of construction, design, and further operation have a minimal impact on the environment, and eco principles must be observed at all life stages of buildings, starting with the development of the project and ending with the dismantling of the building. But our scientists believe that the problem of green construction is much broader than just the impact of the construction of each building on nature. Therefore, we consider a broader problem, biospherical compatibility of cities. It's being studied in Russian Academy of Architecture and Construction Science during the last decade and also in our university. The problem is discussed by sociologists, philologists, doctors, architects, and of course, civil engineers from civilizational, medical, and philosophical points of view. And now let's talk about the problem that needs to be solved. Human activity causes global degradation of the Earth's biosphere, mainly through the functioning of cities and transport systems, which in turn leads to the degradation of humans as a biological species. This problem is, of course, interdisciplinary. And what's that pollution? Foreign substances and factors in the natural environment. Anthropogenic pollution occurs as a result of human activity, as its consequences. Carbon, sulfur, nitrogen compounds, dust, heavy metals, organic particles, artificial and synthetic materials, and radioactive substances enter all the shells of the Earth. Emissions of compounds that are aligned to nature into the atmosphere lead to the suppression of the vital activity of plants and animals. Polluting agents at the organizational level cause a violation of physiological functions and behavior, reduce the rate of growth and development, and cause sharp changes in the great number of organisms. In 1991, Russian Academy of Architecture and Construction Science developed the doctrine of urban planning as a city management system based on the projection of human needs on the city and on the development of response functions of the city on fundamentally new postulates. The main strategic goal of the doctrine is urban planning based on the concept of biospheric compatibility of cities and settlements, which develops a person. For a deep understanding of the issue, I'll tell you a few facts that will help explain the reasons why we engineers began to deal with this issue, not doctors, architects, but we engineers. The ideological inspirer of this issue was academician Vyacheslav Alexandrovich Ilyachov, who is still working on this problem in Russian Academy of Architecture and Construction Science and in our university and our department too. Several scientists from different parts of the world created a work that was presented as a report, The Limits to Growth, on the exponential economic and population growth with a finite supply of resources studied by computer simulation. Commissioned by the Club of Rome, the findings of the study were first presented at international gatherings in Moscow and Rio de Janeiro in summer 1971. The report's authors are Daniela Hage Meadows, Dennis Lynn Meadows, Georgia Rendes, and William Behrens, representing a great team of 17 researchers. The book reported a study of long-term global trends in population, economics, and the environment. It's made headlines around the world and began a debate about the limits of Earth's capacity to support human economic expansion, a debate that continues to this day. Dennis Lynn Meadows, in 1972, on the basis of economic and mathematical calculations and graphs, proved that by the middle of this century, there will be a significant decline in the economy compared to today. For example, the population will decrease by 15–20%, and the volume of food per capita will fall by half. Modern people have been cut off from nature since their childhood. Keller says that nature is an object of reverence and awe, without which human imagination would not exist, and without imagination, consciousness would fade. One of the main causes of the ecological crisis is the state of separation from nature in which many people live. I'll try to quote a few sayings of scientists who have been dealing with this problem and are still dealing with it nowadays. For the first time, Malmegen, he says that the earth is alive. The relationship between man and nature is informational. People act in the nervous system of the planet Earth. And what does it mean? The earth is alive. I think that the earth can respond to human actions, and this response can sometimes be aggressive. A scientist, Sivrokin, says that planet Earth is a self-governing system according to the level of its organization. The Earth corresponds to living or artificially created systems. And the last one is Yuri Zabrodsky, who says that the biosphere is an absolute value for humanity. No biological species can live in the environment of its waste, or it will inevitably die. The result of academician Ilyachov's research at RASM was the creation of the matrix of conversion of the cities to biospherically compatible and development of humans. I'd like to explain the fundamental foundations of the transformation of a settlement. For the sake of concreteness, we will say cities into biosphere compatible and developing person. The first one, let's start with the sense itself, with the original idea. the unity of the city and the surrounding nature, respect for the earth, the unity of consciousness, because man is born of nature. It's part of it, cannot exist without it, and must serve the mother organism. The second one, let's consider from a utilitarian point of view, from prevents the achievement of the unity of the city and nature. Let's combine two opposites, the external and internal direction of the city's activity. External, what's that? The withdrawal of resources from the biosphere. They are air, water, fossil minerals, and energy resources as gas, oil, and the injection of waste into it, solid waste, sewage, industrial waste, gas combustion products at thermal power plants, and much more. And what's the internal? Its impact on the population, the state on the environment, health assessment, life expectancy, level of education, income, human potential. The third cell of this matrix. In the first half of the 20th century, in order to develop industry in a destroyed and backward Russia, scientists proposed using the balance of labor resources. This made it possible to involve a significant part of the rural population in industrial production and solve the problems of industrialization of the country. In the second half of the 20th century, in order to accelerate the renewal of equipment and technologies, improve the skills of employees and improve their working conditions, it was proposed to develop balances of jobs and labor resources. And at the beginning of the 21st century, for the purpose of progressive and harmonious development of people, technologies, and the biosphere of the regions, it is proposed to develop and apply humanitarian balances of the biotechnosphere of the regions, so tribal balances of the population, places to meet the needs of the population, and the potential of the biosphere of the regions. The fourth one, it requires legislative and regularity consolidation of the humanitarian balance of the biotechnosphere of the region, or a gradual transition of this balance. The fifth. The next point is knowledge as a necessary condition for the existence of the city. Professionalism, intelligence, information, suggestions on development. The sixth one, progress in human development and in the restoration of nature on the basis of a symbiotic, harmonious interaction of human society as a part of nature and with nature. The seventh one, a more detailed analysis of the level of human development can be done according to the scheme of this item. First, we will lead the rational needs of a person, an individual, which must be satisfied by the corresponding functions of the city. Life, emotions, will, self-management, self-discipline, kindness, love for parents, children, homeland, nature, the desire for knowledge, for learning, for understanding the reasons for what is happening nowadays, the need for creativity, a sense of beauty, joy, connection with nature. The functions of the city that satisfy the rational needs of a person are the following. Life support, what's that? housing, jobs, transport and communications, trade, healthcare, water supply, and sanitation. The next one, entertainment, recreation, sports, restaurants, discos. Power, it means rulers, parliament buildings, administration buildings. These buildings should create a sense of confidence, protection, law, and order for all people in the world and in the cities too. Charity, education of the younger generation, care for the elderly, disabled and socially unprotected people. So effectively operating relevant institutions, various public organizations of this direction. The next one is, of course, education. School as a source of initial knowledge about the world, universities and higher educational institutes. The buildings of universities, the academic quarters of universities give the city both youth and solidity, create the continuity of generations. Creativity, it in all spheres, academies and research institutes, temples, theaters, museums, architectural monuments. These buildings are not many all over the world, but they are very significant, cause respect and create the attractiveness and individuality of the city. The next one is connection with nature. Landscapes included in the city and views of forest or mountain landscapes. Reserves, so opening from the city. The eighth is reliability, constitution of the city and other laws, traditions of an anti-groups, councils of elders, social union. And the last one is cognition as a basis for policy. Power structures, interactions of all with all, the holiday style of the city. We can confidently say that if at least one of the functions of the territory is not observed in any territory, big, large, city, village, a person cannot develop and live fully and will try to leave this territory. What is the reason for the urgency of the pollution problem? Cities are the source of civilization. Cities are the source of pollution of the biosphere. Since the mid-80s, the Earth's biosphere hasn't been able to neutralize the toxic waste of humanity. Currently, 1 2/10 globe are already required, not one. There are two reasons for the relevance of the topic of pollution. To neutralize contamination, it's required not one globe, but one and some more nowadays, and what will be in future. Now I think you understand why I was talking about the principles of transforming a city into a biosphere compatible and developing person before green building and green construction. And now let's talk about the theme green building. One of the directions of the problem of biosphere compatibility of cities can be called green construction. Green building, also known as green construction or sustainable building, refers to both a structure and the application of processes that are environmentally responsible and resource efficient throughout a building's life cycle, from planning to design, construction, operation, maintenance, renovation, and demolition. This requires close cooperation of the contractor, architects, engineers, and the client of all project stages. The green building practice expands and complements the classical buildings design concerns of economy, utility, stability, and comfort. In doing so, the three dimensions of sustainability, so planet, people, and profit across the entire supply chain, need to be considered. A similar concept in natural building, which is usually on a smaller scale of trends and tends to focus on the use of natural materials that are available locally. Other related topics include sustainable design and green architecture. Sustainability may be defined as meeting the needs of present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Although some green building programs don't address the issue to retrofitting existing homes, others do, especially through public schemes for energy efficient refurbishment, and green construction principles can easily be applied to retrofit work as well as new construction. This is an approach to the construction of buildings as a human habitat that meets the requirements of comfort, safety, energy, efficiency, environmental friendliness, and environment protection in accordance with the principles of sustainable development. In Russia, GOST F54-964-2012 conformity assessment, environmental requirements for real estate objects, came into effect on the 1st of March 2012. And a number of standards of organizations have been created for the rating system for evaluated green building. Key tasks of green construction in Russia are creating a human habitat with high comfort indicators, solving state tasks related to improving the safety of the human environment and saving fuel, energy, water, and other resources, stimulating the development of production of efficient and environmental friendly equipment and materials in Russia, improving the professional level of specialists engaged in construction, operation, and design, development of scientific support for green construction, introduction of green construction methods in the educational process. But all these tasks of green construction certainly apply to all territories, countries, cities all over the world, not only in Russia. You can see on the photo the green roof of the Moscow Research Institute Spectrum, located on the street Usacheva 35. And now some photo of green roofs, for example, landscaping of the galleries of the Hype-Cube building in Skolkovo in Moscow, in the training territory, and roof garden of a high-rise building in Moscow. It's a private terrace of 400 square meters. And now let's talk about our university and our institute. Our institute has 12 departments, where about 400 university lectures work, among which 275 have academic degrees of doctors and candidates of sciences. The institute has more than 4,600 students studying in various forms of education. Correspondence, full-time, evening full of education, correspondence and correspondence posts of education according to an individual curriculum. At the Department of Design of Buildings and Structures, there is a research and educational laboratory of construction physics, equipped with the necessary equipment for carrying out work in the following areas: lighting, heat, engineering, acoustics. This is one of the photos of this room, of this laboratory. Laboratory of Construction Physics allows not only to conduct classes at a high professional level, but also to conduct scientific research in priority areas of construction science. For teaching students, methodological materials have been created that make it easy to learn the material given by the university lectures. And this photo is of our institute, the building of our Institute of Construction and Architecture. Students of our university during their training do experimental research on the basis of all laboratories of the institute. For example, my students made some experimental researches of the basis of the laboratory of translucent structures. The research is related not only to translucent structures, but, for example, to the determination of the energy efficiency of green roofs of various types. For example, an experiment of a green roof was set up to determine the heat loss of the coating, and it was determined that green roofs can increase its resistance to heat transfer by up to 80%. It's obvious that for the building A, the share of heat loss through the coating is significantly greater than for the building B, as a result of which the energy efficiency of the building A is more sensitive to changing in the thermal characteristics of the coating. Thus, from the point of view of energy efficiency, it's most rational to green roofs that overlap large heated spaces. Such spaces are available in schools, sports facilities, exhibition halls, shopping and entertainment centers. To study the regularities of the distributions of suspended dust particles PM2.5 in urban building, as well as the influence of urban landscapes, including green roofs, of course, on their concentration, a three-dimensional model of the territory selected for the study was created in the EnviMed software package. The following tasks were solved. There are development of a model of dust pollution in Moscow region using the method of computational hydrogas dynamics in EnviMed. It's a program which allows to estimate and predict the concentrations of fine PM2.5 particles in the air. Determination of the influence of the vegetation cover of the green roofs on the increase in air humidity, which contributed to the binding of dust and its settling. The third one is determination of the influence of the height of landscaping on the roofs of buildings on the concentration of fine dust. Gritting on the roofs of buildings contributed to an increase in air humidity by about 3%. This leads to the binding of fine PM2.5 particles, thereby increasing the rate of their settling. The calculation results demonstrate that additional landscaping of the territory with trees leads to a significant but local decrease in the concentration of PM2.5 by 15 microgram per cubic meter, while landscaping of the roofs of buildings, although it contributes to a smaller decrease in the concentration of PM2.5 by 9 micrograms per cubic meter, but acts on a more global level. The calculation results demonstrate that the concentration of fine PM2.5 particles gradually decreases in open air areas with increasing altitude. Important factors due to which green roofs contribute to the purification of the air from fine dust particles are the ability of green roofs to increase the relative humidity of the air, relatively low temperature of green roofs in comparison with traditional roofs, reducing the dust density in the surrounding area around the green roof. And in addition, green roofs reduce the load on storm sewers. At the moment, a detailed map of areas where the efficiency of green roofs is high is being developed. In conclusion, I can say that our university invites students to study and internship in any available and even individual programs on topics that will interest you. Of course, this topic too. In addition, there is an opportunity to receive training in additional education programs for bachelor's and master degrees for postgraduate students. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that the most difficult problems can also be solved together.
Thank you, Yelina Vladimirovna, for this very interesting lecture. We wish you success in your scientific work and for preparing young specialists. Thank you very much and goodbye. أظن نحن كثير استفدنا اليوم من هذه المحاضرة، فإذا تحبوا أن تدرسوا في هذا الاختصاص تستطيعوا أن تختاروا جامعة موسكو الحكومية للهندسة مدنية، وتستطيعوا تدرسوا كمان بالمجان على حساب حكومة روسية. يعني الآن عندكم شهر ونص لتقديم طلب عبر موقع إلكتروني educationinrussia.com. فقبل نهاية سنة 2021 نحن كبيت روسي سوف نختار أقوياء منكم ونعطيكم منح دراسية للدراسة في أقوى وأحلى جامعات في روسيا. شكرا جزيلا. تتابعوا برامج تبعتنا على صفحة Studying Russia for Lebanese. نهاركم سعيد، و مرة ثانية أرحب بكم من بيت روسي في بيروت. مع السلامة.